So, you may be asking why I was gone for 3 months. 3 months. April 14th was the last episode that I uploaded. Okay. Very busy 3 months, probably the busiest 3 months of my entire life. Okay. Made a lot of experiences, a lot of connections, did a lot of things I didn't think possible before. God blessed me with so many different opportunities, which I am grateful for. And I will continue to thank God for and probably change my life. So, let's take a step back. April of this year, 3 months ago, when I walked away, or not walked away, or I should say I took a break. When I took a long break, probably the longest break from Right Side Rising just yet. Okay, we're approaching this time of, school's starting to, come together and wrap up. We have finals on the horizon, state testing beginning. Very busy time of the year just with school in general. And obviously, being 15 in high school, I was a freshman last year, in April, I had to prioritize, school over everything else. No matter how much I love doing this, no matter how much I love doing anything, school always comes first. But I will say it was a very, very, very hard thing to do. I don't like walking away from the thing I love, even just for a little bit. But during that time, after school obviously, calmed down and that kind of all ended eventually. That brings us to about a month and a half of now I'm back in the game. My feet are wet again, and I am doing just fine. That is when I really, really, really got busy. So let me tell you, I'm gonna walk you back to June, or I should say a week in June. Obviously, this is 2 months into my absence from Right Side Rising. This one week in particular was so busy. I cannot tell you enough. It was busy. So the week started off. Obviously, the whole week prior to that was working at my job. Let's say we started off that Monday. Okay, that's a speech at a pretty big speech, and a very important speech meeting, you could say, at a local 55 and older community who has been so grateful. I've been so grateful for, and just has been so gracious and willing to support and help me. So I'm going to thank them for that. So did that. Okay, Tuesday, President Trump comes to Macungie at Mack Trucks, gives a speech. That was something. That was fun. Then we get to Wednesday. I have an appearance on a podcast called The Matthew J. Show, which is an amazing podcast I was on. I met him a week prior at a book signing event with Scott Pressler, signing books, his new book, The Persistence, and that's when I met Matthew, and Matthew offered, he said, "You want to come on my podcast? I'd love to have you on. I'm curious to hear some of your takes on these issues, and I'm curious to hear you on A, B, and C." And I loved your speech, by the way, because I did a Q&A at the Scott Pressler book signing, and that was just an amazing experience in itself. That was the Thursday before this, and yeah, and then that week I had one rest day, and I worked on Friday, and it was busy. It was busy. That was an introduction into how busy I have been this summer, okay? Because now, I have like a little week or two downtime, which I'm taking to create content on Instagram and kind of bring myself back into it, because obviously summer just started at this point. Now, we get to July, okay? Because July has been the busiest month just yet. I really thought June was busy with that, those couple weeks where I was doing something. I mean, there wasn't like one day where I wasn't doing something, or one day that wasn't planned prior. So that brings us to July, specifically July 4th. So, Salute to America event on the National Mall, or I should say Washington Monument Grounds, because there was like 3 other events. We have like the FIFA stuff, the Great American State Fair, which I was at those 2 things. I wasn't able to make it to Salute to America, where the president gave a speech and all that good stuff. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you what happened with that. But let me tell you about the 4th of July, America 250, something like no other. It was definitely an experience that I will never be able to match. I don't think I shouldn't say that. I think our country can always outdo itself. I was going to say I don't think America can outdo itself for a long time, but maybe it can. This one was special. So, July 4th, me being in Philadelphia, literally connected by I-95. I mean, we are not that far from Washington, D.C. So let me take you back to last July, when I watched some of the celebrations. Trump signed the big, beautiful bill and had all the flyovers and all the people on the White House lawn and all that good stuff and all that celebration. It was amazing. I made the promise to myself when I was watching that on the TV. I said, you know what? Next year, it's 250. Obviously, I'm expecting something big because we've heard about 250 for like 10 years now. Even though 10 years I was like 5 years old. Yeah, 10 years ago I was like, yeah, five or six. Anyways, but I've heard about this for, I'd say about 5-6 years. I've heard about the America 250. So I know it was going to be big, but wasn't able to comprehend how big it was. And once I started hearing some of the stuff like the fireworks show, the air show, all that stuff leading up to the America 250 celebration, like, in the weeks coming, I didn't really grasp how big it was going to be, obviously, until that point. But I made that promise to myself. I said, you know what? I am going to be in Washington, D.C. next 4th of July, and we're going to be celebrating our 250th birthday. Okay? I literally could not have expected it to happen the way it did. There was just no way that I could comprehend how big of a celebration that was. And now looking back on that, it's still not going to be able to top that feeling for a while. Just how exciting that was and how, I now am realizing how historic that was and just how, when everything's happening in front of you and everything, like that's just another experience in itself that kind of transcends the game. But you also are desensitized to the magnitude, the significance of the event, looking back on that. You're not able to realize that until after it happens and a little bit after it happens, because I was not able to realize just how historic this was and just how significant this was and how this thing there's probably never going to be anything like it until, a couple weeks ago, just a little bit after the actual event. Now, let me get back to what I was saying. I went down there, obviously, with the promise that I made to myself a year before, and we were gonna planned on catching the Independence Day parade. We probably left about like 8 a.m., about an hour or two at least later than what we anticipated, or that we wanted. I shouldn't say not anticipated, because to be fair, we did that to ourselves. But anyways, we get down there. It's hot. It's hot. And I tell you, it is hot. I don't mind the heat, but this is like a heat that makes you like faint. Not like faint as in like, I mean, obviously, yeah, people were passing out, but a heat that makes you weak. You appreciate the nice weather and the warm weather and the sun and everything when you first start getting into the summer months and everything. But like, I gotta tell you, I wanted summer to be over the second I got out of the car, because it was 100 degrees. I think what the real feel, and I don't know if this is like the most accurate, but the real feel like said on some sites it was like 115. I mean, it was unbelievable. So let me keep going to where I was going. Get there about 10 a.m., 11 a.m. We plan on catching the train in College Park, just 30 minutes outside of DC. We didn't plan on bringing the car back down into the city just because of how crowded the city was and how many road closures there was going to be. Obviously, because I think there was like a 5-10 block radius where like you couldn't even like drive your car. That radius obviously within National Mall and like the White House and everything. I mean, it was crazy. So we didn't plan on that because we knew how hectic that was going to be and how impossible it was to bring a car down into the city. So we said, we'll take the train. Okay. I get there and we park. It was like nuts. We couldn't even park. We couldn't find a parking spot. Obviously, one, because it was hectic. There were so many people parked right outside of the train station. And two, we were not able to park at the train station because there was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was so hectic. There was such a trickery around the train station that we didn't really understand why it was happening until we walked into the train station. So we drive a little bit out of our ways, find a parking spot, walk the rest, walk the way to the train station. And we get there. As we're walking, or I should say, as we are getting out of the car, we hear fire trucks, we hear sirens, and it was like, maybe that's not a good sign, obviously, me not having the best luck. I was a little uneasy hearing that, and hearing all the sirens going in. Believe me, these weren't the sirens you hear. You hear them for like 10 seconds and they're gone in 5. It wasn't like a little 15-second. No, it was constant. We kept hearing them, and fire trucks going by, and the fire engines, and the freaking battalions just going across, just racing back and forth between us and the train station. I was like, I told my mom, what is going on? I should say I asked her, what the heck is going on? She didn't understand what was going on either. I truly did not understand what was going on. I've never seen so many fire trucks race back and forth to a location more than I saw that morning. Okay, so what's going on here? We walked down to the train station. We didn't think anything of it, but we keep seeing the fire trucks. They're going. They're just, there was like a dozen, maybe even more. Just back and forth, back and forth. We see the fire chief, the police, there's ambulances, everything. Anyways, let me get to it right here. We walk up to the train station and we ask a fireman, or I don't know if it was the fire chief or who it was. We ask him, and we're like, sir, what is going on? And he says, bad stuff. Or something that was like hectic, crazy. He said something along those lines, just like a one-liner. Okay, very helpful from him because we're worried about something happened to the train. Did something happen on the tracks? Did something happen at the station that required all this stuff? Because train stations, DC, bad stuff, bad combination. Anyways, we ask another guy, a little bit younger, a little less experienced. So he was less likely, or I know he was less likely to hold back or like sugarcoat the situation. So I'm like, what's going on here? He says, train derailment. The train derailed. And I said, is that the line going north, or is that on the southbound line, northbound or southbound? And he said, I don't know, but there's no, and I said, I kind of like stepped in and I was like, maybe I should rephrase that. I'm asking if I can take a train down into the city. And he said, oh, not for a couple hours. So train derailment, that was to start it off. And so I ended up having to call an Uber, and we Ubered down into the city. We were only able to get so close. So we weren't even that close to the National Mall. And we stopped in Chick-fil-A. Everybody, we had to go to the bathroom so bad. It was just such a long drive, and we had to Uber and because let me tell you this now. We were running, obviously, like I said, at least like 2 hours behind. So it was like 12:30. The first flight, the air show begins at like 1:15. So we're like, and obviously you have to wait for an Uber to arrive at your location. So you always add another like 10, 15 minutes onto your ETA. Okay, so we did that. Okay, we calculated our ETA, added like 10, 20 minutes. And we realized like we're running it close. We are really, really, really running it close to when this air show begins. And we don't want to miss anything, okay? Because let it be clear, we traveled a couple hours down here. Took a while. A lot of gas, a lot of preparation, a lot of time. And so we're like, okay, we got to hurry up. We call the Uber, wait around a little bit, excuse me. And we take the Uber down to the city. It's like 12:45, something like that. We go into the Chick-fil-A to eat, or not to eat. Well, we wanted to eat, but we had no time. So we ended up just having to make a pit stop, like a restroom stop. Okay, we used the bathroom. But I gotta tell you, it was packed. And like I said, we were close, like we were in the vicinity of the National Mall, but we weren't like, a block away. Like we were like 5, 6, 7 blocks down. It was far. We had to walk a little bit. So, okay, there's a lot of people. I was like, wow, maybe there is going to be really, really, really long lines. I anticipated long lines, but like 7 blocks away from the actual event, there's a Chick-fil-A. But by the way, this Chick-fil-A, this is one of many restaurants in the area. Okay? It wasn't like, obviously Chick-fil-A is popular, but like, not everybody in the area is going to be at this one Chick-fil-A, but the Chick-fil-A was packed. There was lines everywhere. There was like 50, 60. There were so many people in that Chick-fil-A. So many. I might be over-exaggerating, but there was a lot of people to the point where we had to wait like 20, 30 minutes to use, for everybody to use the bathroom. So anyways, we get out. Okay. It's like 1 o'clock. 1:05, something like that. So we're like jogging down to the National Mall so we don't miss the flyovers and everything in the air show. So we get there just in time. We were like a block away from the National Mall. People everywhere. People, heads everywhere. So many people. There was, oh my gosh, there was so much pride in the air. American pride. I mean, it was beautiful to see. But we were hoping there wasn't going to be as many people as there was that day, and we obviously realized that number when we got there. Okay, so we're walking. We get the first flyover. We're a little bit, out of the way of where we want to be, at least. And so we get there. We don't miss the first flyover. We actually end up catching that, and we're walking around. The lines are so long, so we avoid the State Fair because the State Fair had a couple entrances. I know it had one on the north side, the south side. There was a couple other entry points you could kind of get your way in there, but the lines were, so we just said, scratch that. We'll check it out later. So we go up, we walk up. We originally intended to walk up to the Capitol building because we thought the flyovers were going to be centered over the whole, not just the Washington Monument, but the National Mall's entirety, and all the way through to the Capitol. But that wasn't the case, and we found that out with the first couple flyovers. And these flyovers were spaced out, believe me. They were 15, 20, 25 minutes spaced out, in between. And I mean, they were just coming. They seemed so fast. But the fact is that there was just so much walking. We had not a chance to sit down and just relax. There was so much walking because, you couldn't find a good spot to see the air show and get into the events. You couldn't do all that stuff unless you walked. The National Mall is long, believe me. So we get into the FIFA Fan Fest because that's just the shortest line there. We later found out that you could have gotten to do the Great American State Fair because there was no barrier in between the State Fair and the FIFA Fan Fest. You actually could just go to the State Fair if you were vetted and you were properly scanned when you got into the FIFA Fan Fest. You could just go into the State Fair because the purpose of, the different security checkpoints is not to make sure that everybody's getting to where they need to be, but rather making sure that everybody was getting checked. So if you were on the National Mall, you were just getting checked, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to explain that in the best way possible. So it didn't matter if you traveled between zones. We didn't know that until later. Anyways, we spent most of the early afternoon up till about 4 o'clock on the FIFA Fan Fest. At the FIFA Fan Fest area where there's just people playing soccer, there's people at picnic tables, there's food, there's restrooms, there's waters. And by the way, believe me, there was a lot of water that day. That was probably more water that I saw that day than I've ever seen in my entire life. They had truckloads and pallets that they probably freaking flew in there or dumped 100 semi trucks. There was a lot. There's a lot of, and by the way, the water was complimentary. So I just want to shout out Freedom 250 for making that possible because again, it was hot. It was hot. Okay. Air show begins. Nothing like I've ever seen before. Okay. And this air show goes from 1 o'clock to they had the last scheduled flyover. It ended up being midnight because of the delays, and I'll get to that later. But the last scheduled flyover was 10:30. So that's 8-9 straight hours of just flyovers and an air show, never to be outdone because there was every single aircraft in the entire, or I believe so, almost every aircraft in the entire military arsenal in the air forces across all 5 branches of the United States military, just flying overhead all day, doing demonstrations, doing flyovers. They're mix and matching. The F-35 flies with the C-130, and then the F-35 later flies with the F-18s. They just had so much stuff. It was just unbelievable. They had just combinations. They were flying. They were doing. They didn't get to the fast passes and the demonstrations just yet, but all day for that entire early afternoon until about 5 o'clock, they were just coming and coming and coming and like I said, it was spaced out 25 minutes in between the first couple flyovers. But once we started getting into the latter half of things and, the day started winding down just a little bit, there was just planes. It felt like every second there was just a plane coming and coming and coming. Anyways, fast forward to about 4:15, 4:30-ish, we make our way out of the FIFA fan zone because we realize we have to make it to the Salute to America event, which your security opens up at 5 o'clock. So, we have to go there. Okay. And the Capitol, believe me, that walk from up in the vicinity of the Capitol where the FIFA fan zone was, to the Washington Monument and a little bit further down closer to the Lincoln Memorial, that is a long walk. And it's so hot. It is just so much longer when it is 100 degrees outside. Well, it was hot, believe me. Like a very, very, very strong hot that made me, who usually tolerates heat, feel faint a little bit and feel weak. It was very hot. It was hot. It was hot. It was hot. It was hot. I can only explain to you guys who weren't there. This event, this 4th of July, with one word better than hot. Because it was hot. Anyways, let me get back to my point. We walk down. Okay, we end up finding out that you could just go in the state fair. So, as we're given these like passports, because by the way, at the state fair, they're handing out these passports where you can get stamps from like all 50 states and like all that good stuff. We realized like, wait a minute, we just could have done this all day. We had all day for this. Why didn't we just come down here? It was hectic. It felt a little weird that we weren't like made aware, or that you didn't have to, like, the zones were intermixable. Like, you could go from one to the other just by getting through security. You can go to the fan zone, and then you can go into the state fair, and then if you're in a state fair, you can go to the fan zone. We didn't know that, so I would hope that if they do something like that in the future, that they actually let people know that there is some mobility there. But that's okay. Make our way down closer to the Great American State Fair main stage, which is, again, this is all going west, down the National Mall to the Washington Monument. And it is hot. There was just crowds everywhere. And there was a big blob of people. So we're walking in line. We just are trying to make our way down to the area where they told you can get in. That's where queuing begins and security opens up for the Salute to America event. Because let me make this clear. The Salute to America event and the Great American State Fair, like that stuff up in the National Mall, those are two different events. So you didn't get through security in the Great American State Fair, and you didn't just walk right into the Salute to America. They were like two different events. So we get into this line. Okay, huge blob. We end up thinking this is the Salute to America event because the diagram or the map that they showed us that they sent to the emails and the ticket recipients, all that stuff, they sent it to us. And the way it looked, like the security, they had two lines, one line coming from the north, and then one line, from the south. And they went up like this around the National Mall, going up like this, and then they intersected up here, and then the security point was right there. So security's up here, the lines go like this. We got in line for the state fair. We were just in line for the state fair. I was mad. Okay, don't let the emotions get the best of you. Figure out the next best thing. Do the next best. I can't get that right. So we're going to skip over that. So we find an alternative solution, and that is just to get the heck out of line, okay? Because we ended up trying to go down to the Salute to America line, and we realized we are not making it in. Because they're going to cut the line at some point. We knew that they were going to cut the line at some point. Okay, I don't know if they actually cut the line or what really happened, but I just saw a blob of people. I saw people here. I saw people there. I saw people everywhere. People were everywhere. It was so many people. And the crowds were lined up in going through, to like make their way down to security down near the Lincoln or the Washington Monument grounds, like 10 blocks away. So we said, forget it. We're going back into the state fair. End up having to wait in that line. It was hot. It was hot. We go closer to the state fair main stage, and then we end up making it. We didn't know we could go past that stage, so we actually go past that and get closer to the Washington Monument. So we said, we're going to settle right here. So we settle right there. We see the demonstrations were just awesome. And I posted all these clips, and this whole day, really, I just want to make this known, is going to be in a vlog that I'm posting very shortly. And I was asked to present at a big meeting at a local community event. So I'm excited for that. And that just gave me all the more motivation to record every moment of that day and film a vlog and put everything together to make it like a an experience for you guys. So for those of you who weren't there, you can kind of experience it through that vlog. And I'm going to be telling you guys when that comes out. So stay tuned to my Instagram and Twitter accounts because I'll be posting to there and I'll be letting you guys know as that, kind of all unravels because I want you guys to see that. Anyways, back to what I'm saying. So the flyovers, so they went from the flyovers earlier in the afternoon to the demonstrations that we all know and love, like the F-35. They brought out the 2 variants of the F-35. They actually brought out all 3. Never mind, forget me. Whew. It was like, I love aviation, but this was something that I never have experienced before. And I've been to air shows. I have been to air shows. I've been into planes my whole life. I've seen fighter jets. I've seen the heavies. I've seen like all that good stuff. But it was just awesome. Planes just, fighter jets just roaring, shaking the ground. You could feel it in your chest. Just something to behold. It was something like no other. And then they eventually brought out all 3 bombers. They called this the Air Force Tri-Bomber Formation, where it's the B-52, the B-1, so let me rephrase. B-1, B-2, B-52, all in a triangle. It was amazing. I just realized, I said, we are the greatest country on earth. We have the best technology. And it was just a reminder to be grateful for the country you live in because you are safe if you're here. Nobody can attack our homeland because our aviation, our technology, our innovation, our spirit, our drive, our military might, our war machine is unmatched. And I realized it in that moment when I saw those bombers, those fighters, everything flying overhead. By the way, that's a B-52 for those of you who don't know. And reach up there. I'm going to have to get up for that one. This up here. There we go. Sorry about that. This. Put those wheels in for you guys. This is the B-2. The Death Dorito. Love that plane. Sorry about that. Couldn't get that thing. It's a little high up there. I have a shelf up there with my Legos and stuff. Anyways. Unbelievable. Thunderbirds come around. That was a demonstration. I've never seen a demonstration team like the Thunderbirds just yet. I've seen the F-22 demo team. I've seen the F-35 demo team. I've seen all these different fighter jets, but the Thunderbirds are just unreal because they're like the Blue Angels, but they're the Air Force version of that with the F-16s. And they did what's called a sneak pass a couple times. There were sneak passes where there's obviously, I believe it's 6 Thunderbirds. There's 6 Thunderbirds. Okay, they all come together, right? But the sneak passes are interesting because there's 4 Thunderbirds. 2 of them are missing, doing their own little thing, kind of out of the show center, so nobody sees them. That's the whole point. So they do a diversion campaign or diversion type of thingy. So they have 4 Thunderbirds. There's two kind of out of the way. Four more are flying. They're flying kind of slow. But the whole point is, what I'm trying to say is, these 4 are trying to distract you from what's coming. So they're flying slow. They're getting everybody's attention. Everybody's like, oh yeah, we love it. It's so great. Like, woo, woo, woo. Thunderbirds. And then one of them comes from behind and just, it had to be near supersonic. It was fast. They were going so freaking fast. When they did this sneak pass, when they're coming, and they're lower than there's 4 of them coming, like you're looking up at them, and then there's a Thunderbird, you're actually looking into the distance, you're looking at them, you're like, oh wow, like, they're kind of high up. They're not that high, but they're not that low either. And then when the freaking other one comes back that's doing a sneak pass, it's like, you can see it's like right here. Like it's right there. It's so close. It's just like that. I fell to my knees. I got scared. I actually I jumped. I dove. It was unbelievable. I was like, wow, when I got up. And then I thought I was in a clear. And then they did another one. I was like, unbelievable. Thunderbirds are awesome. Anyways, now, Thunderbirds get done. The National Guard starts creeping up on the security fence or the security barrier, which you have. You can't go any farther closer to the Washington Monument Grounds from there. If you're on the National Mall and you're in the State Fair, because by the way, you can't, again, like I said, you can't go from State Fair Monument Grounds where the Salute to America event is. Okay. I thought they were just enforcing the security line, the security barrier. But then they start going like this. they start and push back. They were doing like kind of like a shoo, get out of here, get up, like leave. I'm like, what the heck? And then I think back. I'm like, a National Guardsman told me earlier before I got into this event, that there is a plan which they may be executing at some point in the afternoon, early evening, because of approaching thunderstorms and inclement weather, called Operation Safe Haven. Or this plan, Safe Haven. Okay? I didn't think of anything of it, but then I'm like, wow, this is Safe Haven. Safe Haven is where the National Guard evacuates everybody from the National Mall and shelters them in nearby, like, Department of Agriculture, Department of Labor buildings, like that type of stuff. So I was like, this is Safe Haven. Because then I start seeing the thunder clouds and I start seeing lightning in the distance. I'm like, okay, so we're leaving. I didn't know what time we were going to get back. Anyways, National Guard's like, everybody need to leave. Then they finally come over the loudspeaker, during this kind of confusion. Like, everybody's like, what are we doing? What did we do wrong? Are we too close to the barrier? So people didn't really know it was weather. But they're like, okay, we are evacuating everybody because of inclement weather over the loudspeakers and on the big screens. They displayed it. They said, stay tuned to Freedom 250 Instagram or social media. So it's going to come next. Okay, now we get out of here. I'm like, okay, so then, because there was a scheduled flyover, I believe there was like a scheduled flyover right after the Thunderbirds that or something lined up where it was like, okay, now I think they're running, because one of them was running late or something, and I just thought they were canceled. I thought the flyovers were they dissipated and then nothing else was going to happen. But then as I'm walking out and I'm literally about to exit the state fairgrounds off of the National Mall where the National Guard wanted us to go, okay, because they wanted us off quickly, Air Force One, the old Air Force One, the baby blue, Boeing 747, huge, loud, fast. It just comes. It's like, it was fast, and I got scared because I had no clue it was coming. So I was like, oh, that's it. We're going to stay here, and we're going to see this, because the old Air Force One was leading what's called they called it the one big flyover or whatever it was called. And this was like a big review of all the different Air Force planes and, everything kind of coming together in one big, like a parade of planes. So I'm like, okay, so now I need to get into position to get my team, to record and just to experience this. So I get out of the way of some of the people, because there's just a stampede of people, end up kind of backing up against the fence, leaning up against the fence, with my phone under my eyes. And I'm like this, looking up at the planes. Anyways, then they start coming. I mean, there is the cargo C-17 cargo plane, and then there's the B-2s, the B-1s, the aerial refuelers. They're all just coming in, foo, 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 foo. And then Air Force One came by with the F-22s, and then there was the F-22s, the F-35s, and I believe it was the F-18s just coming. It was all in one. It was such a spectacle. And again, you can check out my Instagram page and my upcoming vlog about this whole day, kind of wrapped up in one video. That's where you can see these flyovers. It was just amazing. And so then it's done, okay, because then they stop, and I'm like, okay, well, that was everything, and they all came at once, kind of wrapped up, and they wrapped up. So we are deciphering on whether we should, take shelter in one of these buildings and, try to get into the Salute to America event, which we previously were unable to do just because the lines were so big. But now that the crowds were we thought they were going to be dissipating, we were wrong. We thought we were going to be able to do that. We ended up quickly figuring out, after we got stuck in the middle of a stampede of people trying to get into buildings and get out of the, because everything was kind of converging into, there was this one point where it's people from the State Fair are exiting, people trying to come down to the Salute to America event are coming down to, and then the people from the Salute to America event who were also evacuated are coming out. So there's people trying to go in, there's people trying to come out, and there's people coming out from the State Fair, all at this one intersection. We're getting out of here. So we ended up Ubering, getting our car, and we drive down to Arlington in hopes of catching the fireworks show, which we found out on the way up to our car that the fireworks show is still continuing, and that the National Mall and everything people are going to be, allowed to re-enter after security reopens at a certain period of, certain time. So we drive down to Arlington, we get on the highway, and we're let's just try to find a nice place to park. Obviously not park on the highway. Stay tuned. We're not going to park on the highway or run the risk of getting pulled over or run the risk of getting a ticket. So we're like, okay, we're gonna try to find like, a memorial we can stop at that has parking, or like a park or something, along the Potomac River on the Arlington side of things. So I'm not. Wait a minute. So we're driving, and then we see people getting out of their cars. Like, so I think it was like one family in a minivan, like just literally just parked on the side of the highway and then started walking across the highway, cutting off traffic, going closer down to the river, cutting across, because there was like one lane of the highway going here, one lane of the highway going here, and then one lane. So it was like a triangle. There's 3 different lanes of cars and highway. And then these people are walking across it like there's some sort of like crosswalk, like they weren't jaywalking. That's what they thought to themselves. I don't know. So we're like, what are these dingbats doing? They must be crazy. Because, by the way, this was like in the middle of like a forest. So this was a very unusual point for them to be getting off. And we're like, no way. Like, why would they be getting, like, is there like no parking? Like, why would they even be thinking to do that? Like, they're going to get a ticket. They're not doing the right thing. Until we drive up about a quarter mile, something like that. We drive like 2-3 minutes up the way. Because there was traffic, so it takes like 2 to 3 minutes to even get like a freaking quarter mile. And there is a freaking line of cars, of trucks, of Jeeps, of minivans, of sedans, of hatchback. I mean, there's every car imaginable, just a lot, like hundreds and thousands of people parked along the highway, and we're like, these people are here for the air show. I mean, not the air show. People are here for the fireworks show. So this is where we're like, okay, we don't have any chance of getting anywhere or seeing this fireworks show unless we park. So we parked pretty much on the highway, because people, I mean, there was just lanes of blocked off. I mean, there was lanes of cars, like literally there was lanes of cars, on the road designated to parking. And the police eventually, because there was just people trying to park in the middle of the road, which were like, that wasn't what was going on here. So the police came by and they were doing sweeps through it. They were making sure that everybody was able to get through. But again, like there was like just people parked on the middle of the highway. The Pentagon's in sight. It's like to your right. There's the monument you could see in the distance. It was a little hazy, so you weren't able to see the whole deal. Excuse me, sorry. We saw the monument. It was all lit up. We saw, like, we could definitely see that there was the lights and the Salute to America event. Like, it was a bright thing. So we and the river, more importantly, the river where they were letting off the fireworks from with barges was right there. So we figured, okay, we're going to stop here. This is just, we're here. We're good. They do it's called a B-1 Afterburner, like, night pass, where the B-1 bomber, supersonic bomber, unbelievable to even say that, comes full speed, maybe not full speed, because that would be like near like Mach 1.5, something like 2 times the speed of sound. They're not doing that. Anyways, like you see the wings swept back, and then the afterburners coming out of the back, and it's going like, whew, it comes across, and I was like, wow, that is unbelievable. And this is obviously after the president's done speaking, so the Salute to America programming is over, and now the fireworks show begins. B-1 comes, it's like, and everybody's like, wow, like, look at that thing. And it's purple. It looks like a purple ball because the afterburners are coming out of the engine at like crazy rates. So you just see the flames, and it's like a ball, like a purple ball, like an orb just going like, okay, it starts fading away to the distance. And then as soon as that kind of disappears, and that kind of exits from the sight of everybody, the freaking fireworks are blowing off. It's like, it's like they're coming, shoom, 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 shoom. They're coming. Your whole line of sight is just fireworks. The whole line of sight, your whole like field of vision is just fireworks. It's just like a landscape view. They were setting them off from 8 different firework barges along the river. And so we were on a good spot. So it was just, I couldn't even control myself. I see the B-1 pass. That's something I've never seen before in the afterburners at nighttime. And it's like the purple ball and the flames. It's just like, okay. I'm still looking at it. And then the fireworks just come up. They're getting blown off of the barges. I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. I'm like, my goodness. Never seen a fireworks show. That was like 10, 12 grand finales in the first like 30 seconds, or at least grand finales that I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. Unfreaking believable fireworks show. It was just unbelievable. It was something. What I'm trying to prove here is that was unbelievable, and that was nothing like I've ever seen before. And I've seen a lot of fireworks shows. That's a lot more fireworks than anybody's ever seen before. Because by the way, that also broke the Guinness World Record. Unbelievable. 850,000 fireworks set off in 40 minutes. You would think the show is going to be like 2 hours long. 40 minutes. So believe me, by the time the grand finale rolled around and they're just blowing off like every single mortar, every single canister, every tube where they're launching off the fireworks, they're all going off at the same time. It was so smoky. We couldn't even see some of the explosions that were high up, so we were only able to see the things that were just along the river, because they started just, blasting off the fireworks from, and they were just kind of like exploding along the river. It was like there was like layers. There was like the river height fireworks, and then there was like the mid-tier fireworks, and then there was the big ones up top. So we were only able to see the little ones on the bottom, but we heard them. We felt the big ones. We felt it. Unbelievable. And interestingly enough, right after, like literally 15 seconds after the fireworks show ended, or no, not even 15 seconds, not even a second after the fireworks show ended, the heavens just opened up with rain coming down. Unbelievable. So now that's the 4th of July. We got lucky because we kind of like missed the rainstorm. We were able to like dodge a couple bullets there. It ended up getting into a good spot despite all the different like workarounds and the different detours we had to make, all that stuff. Now let me tell you about an amazing experience I just had last weekend in DC again, because DC has been a frequent location of mine, and it's been a frequent destination, and it's going to be a frequent destination in the future, obviously, now that I want to get involved in politics. But let me tell you, amazing experience. I went down to Turning Point USA's Chapter Leadership Summit, where all the different chapter presidents and, chapter leaders who run these Turning Point USA affiliated chapters along the country are going. That's where they were, they applied to, and they were eventually invited. That's where they were going. Okay. So I was like, okay, I run one. I'm going to apply. So I get down there. I was lucky enough. I was just so blessed. I knew my friends were going to be there. I knew that it was going to be a great time going in, but I just could not. I just could not fathom how fun it was going to be until I was actually there. Sort of like the 4th of July. Okay. 4th of July was also a little bit more hectic than I thought it was going to be. But let me tell you, this was an amazing experience. I just saw all the great speakers. I saw the Secretary of Education I was able to meet. I saw the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, speak. I saw Erica Kirk. I saw everybody speak. It was just such an amazing time. Okay, so you kind of get the gist. Just an amazing time all around. Obviously, getting to see all my friends, seeing all the great speakers. Just seeing the future of the country in one room was just amazing. Anyways, but let me tell you guys. So I'm readjusting here. Let me tell you guys about an experience that I was able to have. I was invited exclusively to, and I am going to cherish for the rest of my life, and definitely change my perspective on a few things. I was invited, it was late night, obviously, I'm up in my room with my roommates, and we're just like kind of talking, it's late, it's past midnight, and we have to get up pretty early as it is. And I'm like, I get a text message, and I'm checking, it's like, hey, this is, blank from Turning Point, and I just want to let you know that you have been invited to this breakfast tomorrow with a very special guest. Please be down here by like 7 a.m. 7 a.m. tomorrow. Respond yes, or like this message if you want to continue, or if you want to be in this. I said yes. I hear rumors that it's going to be Erica Kirk, CEO of Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk's widow. So I get down there, and I am obviously ecstatic. I'm so excited to see Erica. I've wanted to meet her for a very long time now, and just an important connection to make. And so I see Erica for the first time, coming in, and she makes her way to like every table, because there was like a table of like 8 or so people from each different region, and Erica and Dr. Amen, who was also a I believe a neuroscientist, and Charlie Kirk's like doctor who gave him health advice and everything like that. There was both of them. And so they're just kind of like making their way around to every table. It takes a long time, and eventually they combine my table with like two other tables because Erica, her schedule's like, running tight. She has to get up on stage soon, and Dr. Amon, who is with her, has to get going fairly soon as well. So they combine our tables, and so Erica comes over. We talk with Dr. Amon first, and then Erica makes her way over, and we're talking, we're sharing what's we call it our big wins, like our big thing that we've that was like a good thing that happened to us this year, like what are we grateful for, like that type of thing. And so after that's done, everybody kind of like mingles, makes their way out of there. They greet Erica and greet Dr. Amon and everything, and like give them hugs and all that stuff. So they just kind of made their way out of there. But I stayed because I was not able to meet Erica just yet personally, because I value personal connections and I value like one-on-one conversations. So I was gonna I made sure that I stayed so that I could do that while some other people were leaving. But let me tell you, okay, why this experience was just so eye-opening, and it revealed a lot of things to me that I didn't realize until that very moment. And that was that Erica Kirk cares about the Turning Point students. She is one of the most genuine humans I've ever met on a personal level before. And I don't understand the slander. That's it. Because Erica stayed every last second to shake every hand, to hug every student, to talk with every student, to share stories, to listen to what the students had to say, to, amazing, amazing. Another great part of that that I want to share was, very, very heartfelt moment was a student, was, after meeting Erica, or like while meeting Erica, I forget the exact moment, was visibly upset, was, emotional. Obviously, everybody realizing the significance of the moment, being able to meet Erica and see her personally, that's a very emotional experience, knowing, everything that she's had to go through. So the student's, visibly crying, is upset. And as she's trying, as a student, it's a shame, as she's trying to like, fight back tears and kind of hold her emotions back, because she's also trying to talk to Erica at the same time. As she's doing that, Erica just reaches in, she just reaches in her bag or something, or reaches in her pocket and gives the student a tissue and gives her a hug. And it was just such a personal, emotional, like genuine moment that guaranteed my support for her, and made me realize that she is genuine. Okay. And nobody can tell me otherwise ever, after seeing that. But I was able to meet Erica briefly. We had a conversation for a couple of minutes. I just talked about Charlie's impact on me, how many, doors, turning points opened up for me, how many blessings God has given me, and how just amazing this journey has been, everything I've been doing to make sure that Charlie's mission and Charlie's legacy is still active and is still going, and it never fades away. And she obviously echoed that during her speech, and she echoed that to me as well when we talked, and she hugged me, and it was just an amazing opportunity to meet her and talk a little bit about her strength. And I told her, just keep going, do not listen to the haters, I should say, because we are doing good here at Turning Point, okay? And you are doing work that I have never seen anybody do before. You are continuing on a mission of your husband's, and a mission that takes so much grit and so much courage in the first place, and that's running a massive political organization. That in itself is impressive. But the fact that you are going after your husband was brutally murdered in public in such a horrible way, and all the flack that you've taken and everything that Turning Point's taken, and you keep going, I want to tell you that you are strong, and do not listen, because you have already proved yourself now. You've already proved yourself. And that's what I told her. So again, we later exchanged emails, and I got in contact with a couple other people high up in Turning Point because of, the great experiences that I had and the great opportunities I had through that breakfast and everything. And just amazing. I just want to say thank you to Turning Point, and thank you to Erica, such a strong woman, such a strong mother. It was amazing. Amazing. And so that was CLS, Chapter Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. And so now, let me also tell you another important thing, another big thing, is I'm working on an interview for you guys, which I'm going to treat as the 1-year special, because this July, or this time of year of last year, was when I started Right Side Rising officially, and I started this mission, and I laid out my goals and everything, and I just could not have guessed how successful and how blessed I, was going to be when I first started this, but here I am, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for God and all the opportunities He's allowed me and He's blessed me with. And I want to thank you guys again for all that. But I'm going to treat this interview, very special interview, as the 1-year special, kind of like, I want it to be one that I, last year at this time of year, 1 year ago at this time, would not have thought possible. And I want to make it special. I want to, edit it up to make it look nice, put everything into this interview. And I'm working on it ferociously right now, because this interview, I'm telling you, coming up is hard to get. And so I'm working my ways. I'm coordinating with, his team. Take that how you will. It's kind of a clue there. And I'm going to make it all happen. And I'm going to treat it again as a 1-year special, 1-year treat for all of you people who have stuck around for so long, because this is just getting started. And I want to not only make my old self proud, because I would be truly proud of myself, but I want to make you guys proud, and I want to make you guys feel and realize that this is a movement, and this is a journey, a mission that is just getting started. And we are going to be doing great things. We're going to be doing big things. And everybody who is watching this right now, and who is going to be watching this interview, we are going to do big things. And I want to thank you guys all for the support you've given me. And I'm sorry that I was gone for 3 months, but I am back. And I'm back here with a very long episode, unusually long episode that I think you guys are going to enjoy. I'm doing a little bit of like storytelling here, a little bit different, but I wanted to, because let me backtrack. Yesterday, my mentor told to me, he said, you need to get on top of Right Side Rising again. You need to show your fans, you need to show your viewers that you are here, and you need to update them on your life and tell them why you've been gone for 3 months. Because podcasting, Right Side Rising, this is your bread and butter. So you better get to it. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give them what I'm going to call a proof of life episode, where I'm going to be proving that I'm still around here, because I know I was gone for 3 months, and I wanted, I want to make this episode special, and I want to, again, tell my audience, tell my viewers, tell, these great people why I was gone for 3 months. So I did. So I just want to thank you all for joining me today. I want to thank you all for the continued support. And I want to thank you all for being so patient and for waiting 3 long months. Thank you all. I will be back soon. The 1-year special episode is going to be amazing, and that's going to be soon. So if you want to stay tuned and you want to get all these different updates, make sure you're following my Instagram, my X. That's Right Side Rising, Real Gino Falco. That's on Instagram, and Gino Falco 22 on X, and through Facebook you can find me at Gino Falco as well. But make sure you're doing that, because if you want to stay tuned and you want to get all the updates for when these, and you want to hear about these, announcements and when the episodes are coming out, make sure you follow those accounts so you stay in the loop. And again, thank you all for excuse me. Thank you all for the continued support. Thank you all for waiting and being so patient and so kind for the last 3 months. And we're just getting started. We're back. There's your proof of life. And I wanted to do this to make you guys excited for the future. And I wanted to help you guys realize that we are going to do great things here. So thank you all. Thank you for the continued support. May God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And may God continue to guide us through this journey. Thank you.